To all mothers, grandmothers, great-grandmothers, godmothers, those mothers whom, God willing, await us in heaven, and those mothers who, God willing, await the day when they can be reunited with their children. Thank you and happy Mother's Day. We can always have reason for gratitude today because, of course, well, without our mothers, we wouldn't be here. And furthermore, without our spiritual mother, Mary, we wouldn't be here either. Because without Mary, we don't have Jesus Christ taking on human flesh. And therefore, we wouldn't be Christians. So who better to help us to appreciate our mothers than the very Mother of God, the model of the dignity of womanhood and of the dignity of the church. Now, I must admit, especially for our Protestant brothers and sisters, but just in general, Mary can often seem like a very distant and unrelatable figure in many ways because, well, being sinless, being both virgin and mother at the same time, and then also, being the woman clothed with the sun, with the moon under her feet, and a crown of 12 stars on her head. I don't know where women shop nowadays, like Kate Spade or Lululemon, probably have nothing on that kind of an outfit, right, if we can just be honest. But the little over half of the world's population who has this unique capacity to be able to grow another human person within their very bodies can relate a little bit more easily to Mary than, the other half of the population, right? But even so, on a more important note, we Catholics understand that, well, God blessed Our Lady in a very unique and special way so as to bless us. Just as mothers, the blessing of becoming a mother and the gift of motherhood itself is a gift not only to women, but also to their children. It's no small fact that all of us originate from the very same place, that within our mothers, we were nurtured, carried, and nourished. Studies have shown, and I checked with some nurses and a doctor on this, okay? Studies have shown that babies react to and know and can distinguish their mother's voice even months before they are born. And also, it's a point of fact that children, when they're in their mother's womb, they survive off of the very body and blood of their mothers, from which they receive nourishment. As that blood passes from one person's body to the other. And finally, it's been shown that after only 2 weeks of pregnancy, that there's this thing called microchimerism, where in this exchange of blood for the nutrients that's flowing between the mother and the child, that some of the mother's DNA and cells not only get into the child's bloodstream, but also that the unique DNA and cells of that mother's child gets into her bloodstream as well. And this is significant because what they found is that even decades later, that child's DNA and cells are still there in their mother's blood, in her body. Which is to point out the very obvious and simple fact that becoming pregnant not only changes a woman, but also that mothers far beyond pregnancy carry within them their very selves, and if that blood is flowing through their heart, carry within their hearts part of their children for years and years to come, and brings us closer to God in a very powerful way. So just think now about this, right? Mary carried Jesus within her womb, which means that God gave her this amazing dignity of becoming a living tabernacle. That being the tabernacle where Jesus in the Eucharist, right? That gold box over there that's stored, it's got all the stained glass behind it, all the candles. That Mary herself was a living tabernacle. But it doesn't stop there. Because, of course, when Jesus was in Mary's womb, that he recognized and was comforted by her voice. And furthermore, that as this exchange of blood between the one and the other, that, well, Mary nourished Jesus with her own very body and blood. And furthermore, what this means through this microchimerism thing, which you can Google if you want, it's totally a thing, that Jesus' DNA was even flowing through Mary and therefore flowing through her immaculate heart all the way up until she was standing beside him on the cross. So clearly, Our Lady can bring us closer to her Son, I think we can say. But what's more is that she also shows us the very dignity of motherhood in general. All mothers, like Mary, can lead us to Jesus. It's built into their very bodies. Because as we know our mother's voice in her womb, it is a sort of training or a foreshadowing of what we heard in today's gospel, that Jesus says, "My sheep hear my voice, and they know me, and they follow me." That our mothers teach us to do this with their own voices very early on. And then as our mothers feed us and nourish us with their own very body and blood, that all of a sudden this makes the Eucharist, where Jesus does the very same thing, the Good Shepherd nourishes us with his body and blood, that all of a sudden we can see that this Eucharist is not something completely foreign, but indeed something that is common and inherent for all of us, that is very natural and beautiful, that our mothers prepare us for. And finally, that just as much as our mothers carry cells of all their children within their very selves, that so too Jesus, he takes on our human flesh and then unites us to his body, the church. All mothers, like Mary, can lead us to Jesus. They show us that we are all formed in God's love and for God's love. To be sure, Mother's Day can be extremely painful for many, for women who carry the cross of infertility or health issues, for those who have never been able to have children, and for those who have lost children. And so, to all those women today, just to know that God blesses you today as well. Our Knights of Columbus and Evangelization Office have been generous enough to offer carnations to all of our mothers as they leave the church this day. And attached to them, you'll find a little invitation to our upcoming Undone prep program and conference. And this is for all women. They're all invited to attend this, such that, well, just with some of these things that I've been saying today and even more, that you might be able to know and recognize and live out of and embrace your God-given identity and dignity that he gave to you and that he shows to you through Our Lady. So I invite all women and even non-parishioners to invite family, friends to attend this as well. But regardless of where we are at on this Mother's Day, Mary shows us the heights to which all Christians are called: to carry, to nurture, and to nourish the presence of Christ within our families and within our world. That is something to which all of us are called. And that is, of course, the chief calling of all mothers, whether biological or spiritual. May God bless all of our mothers this day through the intercession of Our Lady of Mercy, who is the Mother of God. Amen.